Aloha kako, and welcome to A Violation of Trust, a Voices of Truth special report brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Kaiopua Fife. By now, many of us here in Hawaii are fully aware of the efforts of Senators Inouye and Akaka and the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement to force oil drilling in the Arctic Wildlife Refuge. In August 2005, a large group of Alaska Natives traveled to Hawaii once again to seek our support for their traditional lifestyle, to help them defeat the environmental outrage that our senators have promoted. The interviews that follow give voice to the Native people who are staunchly opposed to drilling in the pristine Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Although we were successful in halting the immediate direct threat to ANWR, Interior Secretary Gail Norton in January of 2006 authorized with the stroke of her pen the exploitation of 500,000 acres near the wildlife refuge. The messages you are about to hear are critical because Hawaii faces the same out-of-control exploitation and destruction of environment and culture if we allow the Akaka bill to pass. That would make us all wards of the U.S. government as the Alaska Natives have become. Listen to their voices, see their faces, feel their pain. Well, we're back again, continuing with our guests from Alaska, the far north. And we start out with by welcoming Lydia Sovelik.
Yes.
And your name goes on much longer, I know, and I hope you'll share it with us. But I think I better stick with Lydia. Aloha, Lydia. Mahalo for coming. We appreciate your being here with us, and we'd like to invite you to share whatever message you brought with us from Alaska. This is your opportunity.
Okay. I want to thank you for bringing me here. First time in Honolulu, and I've been trying to come here for 24 hours. Tired of sitting down, all right. So I'm appreciated to be here. Mm-hmm. Meet you people. And I'm born in Wauke Island, close to Prudhoe Bay. That's where I'm born. And we've been living assistance all the way from there north down towards Colville River. That's where we settled. Mm-hmm. That's where my dad settled, where the wood scamp is, close to Nixon. Been living assistant all the time since I was small. I never used to be worried about money or anything because we always lived with birds and caribous and stuff like that. All kinds of mammals, squirrels, ptarmigan. And we used to have only maybe flour, sugar, coffee, milk, and that's what cornmeal, oatmeal. I think that's the most tonic food we used to have. Mm-hmm. So that way, when we used to live, we never worry about money. We never have no bills or anything. Just we buy gas, white gas or something like that to help with the driftwood. Keep our house warm with driftwood. That way we've been living for a long time. So when I get up to maybe 18 years old, and I start to working, I know about money. That's the time I start earning money working in restaurant. So it's hard way to live, more than I used to live before, because those bills always come every month. So we're impacted from oil companies all around us, where I always fishing and try some food, dry fish and caribou. And those always bother me every summer. They always go through my allotment, those big quill, what you call those, the one that always drive through the shallow water, the real noisy boat. Mm-hmm. That kind always bothers me every summer. It always goes through the river, right across. And it's kind of getting hard to have caribous around close to us. It's hard. You know, the people always think we are rich, but we're not. We always have a hard time living in our village, especially who got no job or anything. Like we don't have no retirement or Social Security. Those young people have a hard time living. They thought they're going to get job in oil companies, and hardly any people working. All the cowboys always come around and work, not natives from Montana.
Yeah.
And they put down all the natives. They even know they know how to work, but they just didn't have no CDL or driving license, things like that. That's their trouble. When they don't get that, they don't get job in oil company. That kind of things are going through our village right now. It's hard for young people. They go training sometime, and they always mistreated too. Some area like Cook Power, some white people always treat him bad and let him quit. That kind of thing been going through too. Been talking with young people. They said they always be put down when they're working with them. So that kind of thing been going through in our area. And we really are impact of oil companies all around us. And right now they're going to drill again. And I think they're going to bother a lot of Tisco this time. And I was looking forward to asking for fisheries if I can't fish anymore. It's hard to hunt pretty soon. I've been trying to teach my grandkids going hunting every summer. Go camp with them where my camp is. I always take about 4 or 5 grandchildren with me, teach them how to living like wood stove and stuff, show them how to run those things, because that oil won't be around not too long. Even coal, the money won't be nothing either. So subsistence is something that we have to look after.
You said when you were young, up until 18, 19, you folks used to just kind of take care of yourselves and you didn't need money. But your needs were all met, huh? Mm-hmm. You were able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Sounds like the kids today are the ones who are having a really tough time because they never knew that kind of, all they know is you need to have money now.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a real cultural problem there, I imagine. Do you folks, how is the drug abuse or the alcohol problem with the young kids in your area?
We got problem with that too.
Yeah. Well, I think
Drugs
a lot of us
and
see that in our, when the young people don't have the culture or the traditional ways to hang on to, it creates a real problem for them. They don't have a firm foundation anymore.
That's how come I always try to teach my grandkids, even other kids, to come along,
Sure.
That's the best way to teach them out there, with no electricity or anything.
Yeah, the old way.
Yeah, old ways.
I guess it gets kind of rough too, though, when those traditional resources, the food, the animals and so forth, get fewer and fewer.
But they always be interested to learn.
Yeah, well,
yeah, they are.
That's good. We have programs here in Hawaii for the young people to get them back to their in touch with the traditional ways. It gives them a good foundation.
It was nice to teach a lot of kids from different villages.
Sure.
Yeah. Teach them how to cut fish and everything,
Now all we have to do is do everything we can to ensure there's going to be some fish to cut. That's the scary part if those aren't there.
Yeah. Every game when we had July 4 or Spring Festival, we always cutting some fish contest,
Yeah. See who's the best, fast.
Yeah. And
well,
they get their prices too.
When you said when you were young you had everything you needed and you didn't need money, but you still had to know how to work. It was a different kind of work, huh?
Yeah. Living, subsistence living, just live out of land.
Right.
That's what I mean. Yeah. You got wood for burn, keep your house warm and everything.
Yeah. But it wasn't easy.
But
at least it was healthy.
Yeah. It wasn't easy, but it seems to me when I start to worry about my bills, I always think I should just go back to my camp and live like that.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
It's a good thing that you're passing this along to the kids and that they're interested in learning it.
Yeah.
But that has to happen in all the families. Well, we appreciate very much that Rosemary has taken a few more minutes to speak with us and to introduce her sister, Sandra, to us. So, Rosemary, why don't you introduce your sister?
This is my sister-in-law, Sandra Domarok. She's married to my husband's brother, and we've grown together in Nuiqsut, and she's shown me a lot about Nuiqsut. Nuiqsut is on the north slope. We're 60 miles from Prudhoe Bay on the west side of Prudhoe. We're 130 miles away from Barrow, and our community was reestablished in 1973. 27 original families moved back to this area and reclaimed this area in regards to the land claim issues and the efforts to develop the pipeline. Nuiqsut is a very traditional community. We rely on subsistence resources. We fish, we hunt caribou, and we whale. We have the benefits of life on inland and life on the ocean. We travel the river and hunt by snow machine and feed our families from the resources that the Lord provides for us. And it's a great community. We love our village. We love the people in our village, and our elders have been very supportive of us and really encourage us to be the people we have become.
Yeah. I'm one of the original ones in Nuiqsut. We moved there in 73, May. I'm still living there, still walking on there, and I love to hunt. Started off in Barrow with my parents, Norman and Annie Lamprey. I just recently lost my father last year. So my mom We're taking her out with my kids. She's taking all grandkids out, showing them, know the land, know the river, know the ocean. That's the main thing. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with no electricity too. Mm-hmm. So I know all this native culture, which I don't want to lose. Yeah. I passed it down with my children. I took them out when they were just babies. My mother would say, "Why are you taking him out? He's too small." And I said, "No, this is how you brought me. This is how I teach my children." And I said, I'm not going to lose that because I grew up with both parents and both of my grandparents.
Good. And you were lucky.
I understand more of my native language than English. I grew up with that. Mm-hmm. And I had to go to school to learn my English, to understand English. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't easy, but I did it. Mm-hmm. I'm still here, and I'm glad I never lose my native way of culture. We go out hunting with this alpine we have and all the impact that's happened to us. I had a very healthy daughter. And then last year, she got sick. She's got a thyroid problem, which my family never had. Mm-hmm. And she was very healthy. Now I have to travel to Anchorage to get her taken care of. At times, I can't afford it. Mm-hmm. It's very expensive to travel to go see a medical, especially like Anchorage, even just to Barrow. Yeah. And it's not easy. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're going out hunting and with all this gas high price, you have to travel very far just to get your native food, just to feed the community. Mm-hmm. It's not just one person. All of us work together to feed each other. Mm-hmm. We share. For what little we give, it comes back to us big. And
there was something that I picked up on this time around when you were introducing your sister that I don't think I quite grasped at the beginning when you related to reclaiming a village. In 1973, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean to reclaim a village?
In the early 1900s, around 1950, 1960, there was a social reform that occurred in which the missionaries went out to native areas and started taking the native children into the education system. These children were taken from their families and brought to a school either at Mount Edgecombe or in the lower 48. Mm-hmm. People that were living around the Nooksat area suffered the loss of a plane crash that took all of the children in 1950s.
Going to school or something?
Yes, the kids were going to go off to school and the plane crash, and they lost all of those children from the North Slope. After that event happened, people from the villages moved into Barrow. They had a school in Barrow, at Barrow Day School, and they also started the hospital there. And with the epidemics that started with the introduction of non-natives into the rural communities, there were severe health epidemics that happened with tuberculosis and influenza. Mm-hmm. And many natives were dying, and so this caused a severe fear, as well as the parents were fearful to let their kids go off to such a far distance for school. So they moved from the village areas into Barrow, which was the closest place they could take their children and keep their children with them. And when the land claim started and the efforts to build the pipeline, the North Slope communities worked together and communicated, and one area that was not highly populated was the Nooksat area. We still had traditional usage in those areas. There's many sod houses that are still in existence in that area all along the Coville River and the Nigulik Channel. And the families had extended families in these areas. Elders had stayed in these areas, and these 27 families decided to move back into Nooksat to reestablish the village and reclaim their traditional hunting grounds. And it was instrumental in why we're here today.
And you were among the 23 families to first go in. Mm-hmm. Was that a major decision? What went into thinking about that at that time?
Well, I was pretty young. I was 8 years old when I got there.
Oh, okay.
And Lydia's one of them too. She's one of our
Yeah.
that live with us. And as the years go by, there's a lot of change, a whole lot of change. And there's a lot of change on there, what I see.
It's interesting. It looks like in order to keep the kids together, the families relocated, and then you had to deal with what happened when you relocated to the more populated areas. And then you moved, and then there were some that moved back, I guess.
Yes, and there were a few families that still stayed in that area,
Yeah,
and
didn't leave.
even though the families moved into Barrow, during the summertime they would move back into the Norksett area and continue to use the area for hunting and fishing.
In the summer season.
Yes.
Yes.
It's such a rich area of natural resources, of the biodiversity of the animals and the rich vegetation and everything. It's a unique area that's very rewarding in the traditional lifestyle.
So it wasn't as though the village was completely abandoned, but it became more like a hunting fishing camp during the summers, huh?
Right. There
So
were
they
a few families that kept their sod houses and stayed, but some of them sent just their children into Barrow. Others took the whole family into Barrow and would
relocated.
come back in the summers.
I start thinking about the way that indigenous children were removed from their families all over the place. You know, there was Australia. They did the same thing with the Aborigines. Of course, Native Americans, that's all you hear is about the Indian school.
Right.
And I guess that's where a lot of them went, was to the Indian school in the lower 48.
Right.
Yeah, as we heard earlier from Jane, that's where she went.
A lot of our young people like that were sent out to get education, you know, to get their education, but they would always come back, and it's always there for them.
So you didn't get sent away because you went to Barrow. I guess your family was in Barrow and came back then.
Yeah, but we didn't move back. I stayed. I had school in a tent
Okay.
for the last 9 months, and they started doing constructions, and then I moved back to Barrow for another year till they finished our school. So I moved back, you know, because my family was there, and I was in Barrow with my grandparents, and I knew I was there to take care of them, but I wanted to go back home to my parents, to my family, because there was more activities you can do.
So did you stay like at a boarding school?
No,
Or with family?
with the family,
Oh, okay.
with my grandparents.
And so did you go away to the Indian school, so to speak?
No, I was, my mother was, she had lost both of her parents, and she was one of the young adult children that were encouraged to become a teacher. She started teaching when she was 15 years old, and she had learned the English language because of some nurses and doctors at the hospital when she lost both her parents. One of the doctors took her under their wing and taught her the English language. So she was encouraged to become one of the first nurses at the Public Health Services Hospital in Barrow. And to do that, she was sent to Washington for school. But when she got done in Washington, she was located in Fairbanks. And that's where she met my dad and had all of us, and then met my stepfather.
No. Interesting stories. I met some people in Geneva in July, and one of the young ladies there, her name is Marissa Merkuliev, and she's an attorney. Young lady, I think she must be about 25, 26. And she was at the United Nations Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights, participating in the working group there. I was very proud to be with her. We were, because internationally we see a real connection between Alaska and the native people of Hawaii. And so I had a great opportunity to spend with Marissa. And Marissa did all of her higher education in Arizona. Talk about extremes, Alaska to Arizona, and then got her law degree there. and she's employed now as the Superior Court, I think, in Anchorage now, and is going to Aotearoa or New Zealand next month to expand her law education. So she's another one who maybe wasn't forcibly removed to go away to school, but did go away, and people are proud of her, I know, for achieving this law degree. It's a major thing. Right. But you folks have your language pretty much intact. Yeah.
We make sure that still comes around.
Yeah.
I was not taught the native language. Since I was raised away,
yeah.
I was not taught that. Mm-hmm. When I've come back, I've learned a lot of terminology. I can really communicate with individuals, but I'm not fluent. I have very hard time formulating the structures of the sentences. So
you have to think about
it's difficult. It's hard. I say I've got my dad's tongue. The words are more guttural, hard to form.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things to share with the Hawaiian natives is that it's really important to work with your young people and your young adults and your adults in our age group and encourage them to further their education and bring that education back into your communities and to work with the young people that you have in your areas and plan for the future that's coming. We all are facing a lot of change. There's a lot of efforts to develop natural resources in all of our areas. And if we're not educated, we're not going to build the best fight to stop the worst changes that will come. So really work very hard with your young adults and people in our ages. Get them out and get them educated. Get them back into our communities. Share this knowledge and build the plans that will help to protect your vital, important issues.
Good message. Mahalo nui. And thank you for coming and sitting with us.
Yep.
What a pleasure.
It's my first trip to Hawaii.
That's fantastic, and I hope it's not the last. And again, Rosemary, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We hope that our cousins from the north have touched your na'au, your mind and spirit. Their messages are warnings of future threats to pono, the natural balance, the health and well-being of our aina, our environment, and our people. This has been A Violation of Trust, a Voices of Truth special report brought to you by the Kiwane Foundation. For more information on this topic, please visit www.cnhaexposed.org. I'm Kaiopua Fife. Mahalo and aloha.